twice. All right, let's pull. It's a, no, card, not card.
One, two.
Here, put it down. Okay, next time. Yeah, hold up for next time. Work a special deal for me. All right, good morning. That's it? That's all I get?
You got some applause.
Here we are into June. The year's flying. Last month, we closed, well, actually April, so now it's a little over a month. Biggest month in the history of this branch in the almost 9 years I've been here. So the opportunity's there, the market's there. A lot of great information today. So we're going to go very quick. If you have a need or a want, need to hear about it very quickly. So I'm going to read sales. As soon as I'm done, if you've got a need or a want, it's time to go.
Do you want listing pictures too during the meeting?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Open
You want
escrows.
listing pictures too.
The Weird Team, open 915 Emerald Bay. Laguna Beach, $6,900,000. George and Perla Portillo, Canyon Creek, Newport Coast, buyer at $4,150,000. James Gray, double-ended via Harv. How do you pronounce that, James?
Yeah, they are.
All right, in Newport Beach, double-ended at $2,835,000. James Gray also opened Port Manly in Newport Beach, of course. Port Street seller at $2,770,000. Ronnie and Serena balcony in Irvine seller at $2,500,000. Mimi Pardini, Port Tiffin, Newport Beach seller at $2,200,000. Bill Hobbs, Dover, Newport Beach seller at $2,000,000. Brenda McCroskey, Jasmine, Corona Del Mar seller at $1,800,000. Nikolai Glazer, 45th Street, Newport Beach seller at $1,765,000. Debbie Bradbury, Marigold, Corona Del Mar seller at $1,750,000. Bill Hobbs, Catalina and Laguna Beach, buyer at $1,600,000. Nikolai Glazer, 33rd Street, Newport Beach, buyer at $1,470,000. Mark Simon Bungalow, Corona Del Mar seller at $1,391,000. Chuck Adams, land down in Oceanside, okay, double-ended at $1,260,000, not bad. Weird Team on the Newport Beach, buyer to $1,240,000. Lila Feingold, 16th Place, Costa Mesa, double-ended at $1,225,000. Sasan Avail via Talavera, yeah, out in Yorba Linda, seller at $1,025,000. Doris Quinlan Gannett in Newport Beach, seller at $1,000,000. Kosh Team, Aberdeen, Villa Park, buyer at $900,000. Candace Arnold, Valley Springs, Inland OC, seller at $900,000. Sean Halen, Via Reggio, Laguna Niguel, buyer at $800,000. Lila Feingold Wilson, Costa Mesa, seller at $800,000. Hillary Thomas, Mission in Irvine, seller at $800,000. John Newquist, Benton, Santa Ana, buyer $760,000. Jane Sungela, Parker in Orange, seller $750,000. Barry and Marcia Marks, Rosewood in Irvine, seller $615,000. John and Sherry Miller, Coral Rose, Irvine, seller at $600,000. Ann Sarabandon, Maidstone out of area, buyer at $575,000. Kosh Team, Costero Isle, Irvine, buyer at $550,000. Kurt Real Estate Group, double-ended Placentia in Costa Mesa at $550,000. Mary Robbins, Silver Oak out in Corona, seller at $529,000. She's telling me about that house. Amazing house in Corona. Of course, it's Corona, but $529,000. Marilee Hateman, Beechwood and Lisa Viejo, seller at $525,000. Sarah Lynch, Maple Leaf down in North County, San Diego, Carlsbad, seller $525,000. Barry and Marcia Marks, Monte Vista down in South County, San Clemente, buyer at $485,000. Ronnie and Serena, San Michael Drive, Costa Mesa, buyer at $480,000. Brittany Layton, Churchill, out of area, buyer at $440,000. Laura Dolan, Rockwood and Irvine, buyer at $400,000. James Gray, Avenida de los Niños down in Laguna Niguel, buyer at $400,000. James Gray, Rancho Santa Margarita, seller at $400,000. James, have you been to either of those cities?
No, but Damien has.
No, but your team has. Okay, just checking. Sarah Lynch, Amstel, Up in Whittier, which is an interesting story. She grew up there and is starting to dominate that market. Double-ended at 370. Jocelyn Vitar, Grand Circle, Cypress, just what, North County, is that LA? LA County? Orange? Cypress, okay. North Orange County, buyer at 310. McMonagle Team, Wild Cherry. Green Valley Lake, seller at 280. So his team's working all over. All right, closed. Linda Chan and Santa Amorth, closed oceanfront in Newport Beach, buyer at 3.8. Mina and Joseph Magami, Landport, Newport Beach, buyer at 3.2. Kosh Team, Vincennes, Newport Coast, double-ended at 2.5. Leanne Bowman, Outrigger, Corona Del Mar, buyer at 2.275. Bill and Stella Warden, 8th Street, Coronado, down in beautiful area, San Diego, Coronado Island, seller at 2.2. Weir Team, Le Mans, Newport Beach, seller at 2.2. Danube Morandi, Anna Capri, Newport Coast, buyer at 2.150. Ronnie and Serena and Sean Flynn, Bolsa in Newport Beach, seller at $1,000,006. McMonagle Team, Santiago, Newport Beach, buyer at $1,510,000. The Weir Team and John and Sherry Miller, double-ended Troville, Newport Coast at $1,285,000. Sarah Lynch and Ramada again in her old neighborhood up in Whittier, seller at $1,260,000, which is a really nice house up there. The Weir Team, 427 on to Newport Beach, buyer at $1,200,000. The Weir Team and Jacqueline Moran, double-ended Fee Camp in Newport Beach at $1,175,000. The Weir Team closed Leslie in Newport Beach, seller at $1,055,000. A lot of closings for the Weir Team.
Yeah, good month.
Things are good. All right, next page for closings. Hillary Thomas, Cresthaven in Tustin, buyer at $1,040,000. Kosh Team, Ramsgate, Anaheim Hills, buyer at $1,025,000. Laura Erickson, Dawson, and her new farm in Huntington Beach, seller at $785,000. Hillary Thomas, Woodcrest down in South County, Lake Forest, seller $750,000. Kosh Team, Minor, Costa Mesa, buyer $740,000. Tiffany Robertson, Pia Alphonse, and Laguna Niguel, buyer at $725,000. Hillary Thomas, Birdcage in Orange, seller at $717,000. McMonagle Team, Vista de Valle, Aliso Viejo, buyer at $702,000. Nicole Story, Santa Monica in Aliso Viejo, that's a new farm for Nicole as well, buyer at $685,000. Nikolai Glazer, Laverne, Circle, Newport Beach, seller at $675,000. Leanne Bowman, Hummingbird, also in Aliso Viejo, seller at $660,000. Ronnie and Serena and Sean Flynn, Cyriline, I'm sure I pronounce it, up in Garden Grove, seller at $630,000. Kosh Team, Avalon, Santa Ana, seller $605,000. Ronnie and Serena, Duet in Irvine, buyer at $550,000. A few more, Hillary Thomas, Baldwin in Orange, seller at $525,000. Brian Walker, Pastor Rico, Rancho Santa Margarita, buyer at $512,000. The Amstetter Team in D. Yokohama, double-ended Martin at $500,000. Donald Poff, Camino Capistrano down in San Clemente, seller at $492,000. Lauren Miskinnis, Camino Santa Elise out in the desert at seller $385,000. Steve Walks, Frampton, out of area LA, buyer at $381,000. McMonagle Team, Pinehurst, Garden Grove, buyer at $380,000. And Bill Hobbs, Calle Oregon down in Laguna Woods, where for $178,000 you can actually get a nice place. Congratulations, that's a lot of sales. So, and none of it happens by osmosis. It's all by bringing value to the customer, and that's our quest. And I'm just amazed today with the information you're going to get. We're going to talk to Shauna and then a friend from years back, Daniel Penley's going to have some things to share as well. So if you have a need or a want, I think you have exactly 7 seconds if I'm factoring this in right. So come up toward the front. I've got a microphone. Affiliates, thank you all. We're not going to take time for affiliates because of the full schedule, but I have to tell you, we're doing amazing, and getting deals closed has never, ever, ever, ever been tougher. I was talking to Martha Mosier last Thursday night, about 10 at night. I said, Martha, this is a record. I've spoken to 5 attorneys today, counting you. It's what we do. And our clients so need our protection. And so it's the reality. But we're up for it. That's why we're doing as well as we do. Okay, In 5 seconds or less.
Agent Maryville,
Oh,
office. Whoop.
Last 5 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
Office preview today. It's so nice to see everyone here. I look forward to seeing you there on the peninsula. It's a terrific property. You've missed it, and you can sell it easily. It's $1.9 billion. It's 3 bedrooms, 3 baths. It's on an R2 lot, 4 outdoor living spaces. It's ready for you to
See you
buy.
today.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Jacqueline.
Hi. I just wanted to let you know I just had a price reduction last night on the property in Huntington Harbor. It's 2,908 square feet, 3 bedrooms. It is an amazing home on Trinidad Island for now 13495. Great location. Come see it.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning. Hawaiian shirt today.
Yeah, I had first time. Clairton and I have 4.8 acres in Merino Valley. Tentative map on it for 18 parcels, $1,599,000. Divide that by 18, we'll get the lot price. And there's side parcels and development all around it. Also, I have still one, I have a car wash in Whittier, an express car wash. The last 2 months, it's done 7,500 cars. Last weekend or 2 weekends ago, it did 1,400 cars on the weekend, and that's 4.3 million.
Well, thank you. I realize we've got Kevin walking around here, our #1 individual agent in all of Orange County the last 3 years. Shauna's been the #1 individual agent in production. Kevin in units, Shauna in production by a long shot for individual agents. For how many years? A long time.
5, I think.
5 years and counting. So I'm glad you're here. Yes, sir.
Hi, Tom Zolga. I have a new listing that's going in the MLS on Thursday. It's at 350 Vista Bahia. It's at the end of a cul-de-sac in Upper Newport Bay. It's near 23rd and Tustin, kind of the Cherry Lake area. This is a great family home. It's 5 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. It's over 3,700 square feet. It's on an 11,700 square foot pie-shaped lot. With the 5 bedrooms, it also has 2 separate offices. It's a huge home. It's got a front porch that overlooks this huge green lawn out front. It's got the classic carport with the long driveway. And in the backyard, that's pie-shaped, you got a 50-foot swimming pool and spa that's solar heated. It's listed at just under 2.4. We're doing broker preview Friday, and it will be open this Saturday and Sunday. First time on the market in 35 years.
Congrats. Where did that client come from?
Open house, rode in on a bicycle.
Open house, rode in on a bicycle. We have 100 active listings. If I had a magic wand, all 100 would be open next weekend, and half of those would be open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday as well. Why not? Why not office there instead of here? Just a thought. Nicole, our HGTV star.
Yay.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. I do have a property on office preview this morning on the Newport Beach Peninsula. It is adorable, very nicely finished, modern finishes, quartz countertops, bone and shell inlaid flooring. Super unique. There is a rooftop deck with an ocean view as well as an ocean view from both the master and the front porch. We're priced aggressively and the house shows beautifully. If you do go, try and carpool, and you can. There's street sweeping on Tuesday morning, so hopefully there'll be some parking. Thanks.
All right. Thank you all. Without any further ado, I want to welcome Shauna Covington, who's become such a friend in recent years, and I've watched her since she came into the business. What year was that? I don't need this. I can give this to you.
Let's see.
What year did you come into
I
business?
started in real estate about 29 years ago.
Okay.
Originally on New Home Tracks, and it was really great because you're in the office all day. You work all the holidays, so it was great preparation for going into resale. And Scott was so wonderful today to invite me to talk to you a little bit about open houses, because I've noticed over the last 4 or 5 years when I was able to increase some production, if I tracked it, it was from open houses. So
let's jump into that. Before the open house, you came into the business then, new home sales. How many
Right.
years resale? And then how did that open house dynamic, I remember you when you were just getting started in resale.
Right.
You're connecting with people in the open house in an amazing way, and of course, the growth was phenomenal. So how many
Yeah.
years in resale? When did you transition?
Let's see, in resale, I started in about 93.
Okay,
And, but-
23
but
years
what
now.
what I loved about the open houses was the fact that it was free. And so as a new agent, you were able to connect with an incredible database without having to do all the costs of marketing. So
Okay.
that was a real great beginning.
and by the way, you have to hold that really close so it'll pick up,
Okay.
sorry.
Did you-
Okay, so-
Are we gonna do an interview or?
Yeah, how did-
Because
okay.
I've got a whole list of things that I
Yeah,
was gonna
so,
cover.
let's dive into that.
Okay,
You got started in resale, you already had great experience and success in new home sales.
right. I
And I'll
love
talk to your
that.
husband,
I
and
love
you don't
that.
brag about that,
We
but
would
he's
be
told me how
closing
successful you
about
were.
50 escrows at a time, constantly, and always tracking with all the lenders and working with all the buyers. So it was every day you were on the phone.
Okay, so now resale, 1993,
resale,
you've got
right.
that success, and how did it translate over? What did you do? And you've got notes, I know
Right.
open house played a lot into it, so just
Yeah, I've
talk
got some
about.
great
All right,
stories
let's
for you
talk
about
about
open
that journey.
houses.
Let's talk about that journey.
Well, what I found, Ray McAfoose was a great agent in Laguna Beach, which I'm right across the street from the Montage, our office there. And I loved his properties that he listed. And so I chose my favorite properties and asked Ray if I could sit on them. And he was so wonderful because he would let me not only sit on it 1 week, but it was continuously on the same house, which I found to be incredibly effective because you get to know the neighborhood. You also recognize the same buyers that come back to see the house, and you genuinely love the house. So it was an easy sale.
Okay,
Yeah,
and so that got started.
right.
You-
So
you
that's
found
how I
someone-
started meeting buyers. Then the buyers turned into listings in a couple of years. And what I found was really interesting, people that came through, the ones that were a little more challenging, that were questioning me on price and questions about the property or things that they didn't like, actually ended up being my clients. Because I was new and I wasn't taking any offense to it. I felt like I just need to be as friendly and happy at this house as I can be. And a lot of them I ended up listing because I think they go into open houses watching us and they want to see how we act.
So that calm demeanor really went a long way in connecting with the more difficult, challenging personality types.
Right, yes.
Because immediately-
You almost want to welcome them because they're engaging you. And a lot of times when we're on open house, we're trying to engage them. And so when they walk in and they're engaging you, there's usually a reason.
Okay. So why were you connecting with people back at that time on open houses when many of your colleagues were out on open house those weekends as well? They didn't connect the way you did. Why? What was?
I think people just want to know that you care and that you're actually there to help them, that you're not just trying to make a sale. And so when you introduce yourself, and I usually give my first and last name because they will do the same. So, if I say, oh, good morning, I'm Shauna Covington, shake their hand, they'll say, oh, I'm Joe Miller. And then they introduce their wife. So you've already built a little rapport. I try and not follow them around directly. I say, feel free to take a look at the property. Are you out shopping today or are you a neighbor? And they're usually happy to respond to that because lots
Good
of
note.
times they are a
Good
neighbor.
note to, good words to remember. You're
Yes.
taking notes.
And when they're neighbors, they're relieved because some of them feel kind of guilty going through the open house when they know the seller. So they just say, oh yes, I'm a neighbor, I'm not interested. Well, it's interesting because lots of times they're looking at you because they want to put their house on the market and they're basically interviewing you. I was in North Laguna and a great couple came through, and sometimes you'll just get a feel for the people. Would they like to know a lot of information right away, or do they seem a little more subdued, where you need to be a little, step back a little? But I thought, these people seem pretty hands-on. So I started talking about the flooring and taking them on a tour. And when I was finished, they said, well, thank you for the great tour of the house, but we just finished our interview for you. And will you come list our house on Panorama? It turned out to be a $4 million sale. And this was a tiny little house in North Laguna that was about 1,400 square feet. But they knew I was going to be on that open house, and that was my listing interview.
So are we always on stage?
Yep.
I call it lights, action, camera, because a lot of the properties, when you first get there, you think, oh gosh, you see everybody going to the beach, and someone tells you they're going to an afternoon barbecue, and you're on your way to an open house. So as I go through the open house, I turn on each light. I say to myself, okay, I'm getting ready. I think I saw this in a movie or something. I'm getting ready for today. With each light I turn on, I'm more ready, and by the time I'm done, I'm like, okay, lights, action, camera. And actually, there is a camera, because all of my listings lately, my sellers have given me little hints that there's a camera inside the property, so we're always on show. And just last weekend, I listed with an agent out in Codo, an amazing property. I'd actually sold the buyer the 10.5 million. And so he called me to co-list it because he felt bringing coastal buyers inland would be great. Well, after the open house was over, I was talking to the seller and I was giving her kind of a summary of the day, and she said, and I don't even think she realized it because she gave me such a great hint. She said, who was the guy in the plaid shirt? And I thought to myself, how did she know there was a guy in the plaid shirt? Well, it turns out their cameras, a lot of them you'll see them when you come in. You can just notice in the corner. But their cameras were so well hidden, I never even knew about it. And she said, I was a little concerned about him because he was looking so closely at the property. And I said, well, he's an incredibly qualified buyer. He came to see the property because he was so interested in it. And I hope it's okay in letting you know this, but it was Jim Irvine, you know?
Oh my gosh.
So she was, looking, watching the cameras, watching me. I know they have them for security, but we always have to do our open houses as if we're on show, on a TV series or something, just to keep it fun. But that's
Amazing.
another new phenomenon in today's technology, that there's cameras at all the open houses. One of the stories also I wanted to share, I had a listing down in South Laguna, and a buyer came through with his agent from Newport, and the buyer said to me, I hope you're telling all your high-end sellers to have open houses. And I said, well, why do you say that? And he said, I sold my home, $11 million in Pelican Hill, by holding an open house, and I did not want to hold it open. My agent talked me into it, and it sold from that one open house. So, I always thought of open houses as maybe getting buyers and working with new listings, but now I found something really interesting with my listings that I have. Sellers are always wanting communication, and they want to know that we're there and we know what's going on. So I pretty much, all my listings I hold open every weekend. I rotate around, but the agents that do the open houses for me, and John Miller's been amazing, helping me out on Vista and Laguna Beach, but they, I'll give you a shout out there. They give me feedback on how the open house went, and every Monday morning, then I email out the feedback. And I kind of call it a drip system, because if we're priced too high, every week they'll get a report. All of the buyers, they love the property. Maybe they were looking for one more bedroom, but I did have some comments on pricing and they felt we were a little high on cost per square foot. So week after week, if you're needing a price reduction, you don't have to sit down with that one meeting towards the end of the listing when you're just trying to get this property sold as quickly as possible. They will actually follow up with you. And I just had that day before yesterday that we've been doing this little drip system, that the property's beautiful. We give them suggestions of what they can do, maybe if they want to spruce up the landscape or if we notice something. Then the feedback about what the traffic was, how many people came through. But we always have something about pricing. And my seller called and she said, let's go ahead and drop it 100,000. I've been getting your emails on a weekly basis, and I think it's time to reduce, which is really rare. Usually, you know how it is. We have to sit down and talk to them. Out of curiosity, how many people do an open house here every weekend? Okay, I did some tracking. I've sold 51 million since January, and 65% of it has been sales from my open house.
65%.
65%. And
Congratulations,
what
by
I-
the way. That's,
well-
you're on pace for a $200 million a year. Well, but way up there.
Well,
Phenomenal.
I thought it was really interesting because I didn't realize it myself until Scott asked me to come here, and I thought, yeah, it does seem like a lot of these buyers are coming through open houses. But when I tracked it, what was even more interesting, out of my buyers, 75% of the buyers had gone to the open house before we wrote the offer. And one of them, I was on vacation, and I said, I always tell them, you know, here's my cards, let the agent know up front so they understand when you walk through the door that you're working with an agent, in all fairness to them. And they called me and they said, we found this great house in Laguna Beach on Catalina, and we loved it on the open house. So I called the agent, and then, you know, with our computers now, I was in Europe, but I put together the offer, it was accepted, and we went into escrow while I was still on vacation. And it was because of that open house that they went into. On your open houses, you want to always be sure and put it in the MLS that it's on open house. And then, of course, Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, all the sites. And one of my favorite young agents, her name's Kelly Perkins. She just started last year. And every week she'd give us a report on Sunday night how the open house went. And she always had about 50 people. And then I would get reports from other agents, and they'd say, yeah, we had about 4 or 5. So I was talking to Kelly, wow, how do you get 50 people every week? And then I was seeing that she was bringing buyers back to my listings. And she puts out 25 signs. And her husband actually wears like a construction jacket with reflectors all over it to be safe. And they're on every corner, so she has all the different streets leading to her property.
So now what do you do if the city came out to your open house and said you have too many signs, you get a warning, and if you put any more out than 3, you get fined? Because that happened to me.
Is
The
that
question
new?
is, how do you deal with city restrictions on signs?
Is
On
that
number
in-
of signs.
in Newport Beach?
3 signs is all I get, and I usually put
Yeah.
up 10 or 12.
Right.
And they said you have been
Okay,
warned
so-
in writing.
Well,
House in Laguna.
Yeah, only in Laguna.
But the
Yeah,
point
they're
is,
strict. You can't put more than 1 sign on a corner. So if another agent has a sign up, then you just lay your sign down. And if they leave early, they put your sign up. But yeah, we can have signs on every corner on Coast Highway. And she has done so well. She just sold a $3 million property that was one of my listings, and she sold a $2 million last week. And she's a brand new agent.
Okay, so the point is, the more exposure for the open house, however it happens, brings more people.
And a good
Oh,
tip for
it's-
Newport, if you rent our generic signs, you can double the number of signs
Okay.
without getting in trouble.
Double the signs in Newport with generic signs. So there's workarounds, and we'll continue. So what are you picking up on so far as far as Shauna's communication style? And how it relates to the average agent that doesn't connect nearly as well?
She doesn't sound like a salesperson. She sounds
Doesn't sound like a
warm,
salesperson
friendly
at
lady
all.
that you want to talk to.
Very, very calm and deliberate communication. I just noticed too that you are so in tune and observing as to how the person is responding to what you're saying and adjusting based upon that. By the way, Shauna, if you've talked to Shauna and done deals with Shauna, this is exactly how she speaks with the colleagues, with the other agents. How refreshing. No wonder every agent in town wants to sell her listing, because they know they're going to be working with somebody in such a positive, professional, collaborative way that the deal is going to happen. How often is that lost out in our day-to-day reality? Oh my gosh.
Well, you know, on that note, the camaraderie with the agents is so incredible because we're all together as friends and we're the glue that makes this whole business work. Yesterday, I called Kindy Slagle, who's just an awesome agent, and she took over one of my listings down in Dana Point. It was right out on the bluff on Scenic Drive. Pretty cool house. And we just started too high, as the story always goes, and then we, tried to get the price corrections. By the way, I was never doing any open houses at that property. That's kind of my new thing. But anyway, I lost the listing and Kindy took it over. And so she called me and we were talking, and I said, by the way, Kindy, I hired some real expensive photographers. If you want the photography, you can have it. So she would use my photography, and this was like years ago, 4 or 5 years ago that she started using that photography. Well, I just listed one on Rockledge in Laguna Beach for $10.5 million. I met the buyer the seller from an open house on Coast Highway. So the story once again. But I looked on the listing, on the history of the listing, and it was Kindy Slagle. And I found out I can get the cover of Prime magazine. So I called Kindy and I said, Kindy, I know you've got some beautiful photography of that property, and I'm under deadline to get this in by Friday. Would it be okay if I used your photography? And she said, oh, sure. I remember on Scenic how you helped me out. So that's what it's all about, that we really work together as a team, because it's incredible how that extra effort, extra help makes such a difference to our clients.